Hey, welcome shooters. This is Jason from Sure Shot Ranch talking to you today about making your own blanks and why you should choose to do so, or why not. In cowboy mounted shooting, we shoot 45 long colts. And before the pandemic, it used to be you would just buy these little guys right here. This is a factory produced competition round. You can see the end of it is crimped shut. After you fire the little baby, it looks a little bit more like that. You can see it's flared open, powder flies out, hits your target, hopefully. These have gotten harder and harder to come by as a result of the pandemic. But even before the pandemic, honestly, these little guys were about 45 cents a piece, and I can make my own for about 13 cents a piece. And given that I shoot so many of them a month, from a cost perspective, it made a lot of sense for me just to make my own, not just cost, but convenience too, having to buy these things. And there's more than one shooter in my house, so I'm shooting, and my wife's shooting and friends are shooting. Got a bunch of people over here shooting and going to different practices, things like that, and you end up pouring through these things pretty fast. The next thing you know, you're down to an empty box that's only got 40 or 50 left in it. So making my own, if I find myself in that situation, hey, no big deal, right? Just head out to the garage and knock out some more. So, pausing for an airplane flying over. It's taking its sweet time. But recently, with pandemic and political issues being what they are, there's been a pretty big run on guns, which has been a pretty big run on ammunition, which means these little things are getting harder and harder to find. When I look online right now, the normal distributors that I've been going to, and by the way, these are the same distributors that match holders, competition holders, event hosts are going to for these these bullets, these blanks. Same people, right? Same manufacturers. Well, they're getting harder and harder to find. In fact, as it is right now today, only one of the manufacturers that I'm used to being able to shop from has anything in stock. Everybody else, same old story, there's no primers. So while I can't find these in bulk anywhere else, I can still find primers. And granted, they're more expensive, they're hard to come by right now. So you're gonna pay a little bit more for them. And normally, in normal conditions, a primer is about 3 cents, 4 cents a piece. And right now they're going in bulk, you end up paying probably nearly 30 or 40 cents a piece. Which is a lot, but if I can't get these anywhere, that is my next choice, and I do still have to practice. So like I said, I was doing this before the pandemic. I've been making my own, I don't know, for almost a year now, only because, again, back to the convenience, and before it was a big cost savings, 44 cents, 13 cents, and when you're shooting hundreds of them, it does add up. So if you decide to go off and do this, a couple things you need to know. One, I'll walk through the equipment you need, the parts you need to do it. But you also need to know that they're not quite as safe as this crimped end. And I'll demonstrate that a little bit later on. We'll shoot some pop cans, soda cans. And you can get an idea on why these are not allowed in competition. So making your own requires you to use a wad. So what does that take, right? Well, first you need a brass casing. I buy my brass from Starline Brass. They make a fantastic product. This lot that I have here, I'm probably on the 17th reload, 17th cycle of reloading these, firing them, like clean them, punch out the primers, do it all over again, 17th time, and they show zero signs of any sort of wear. There's no stress cracks, there's no fatigue, there's no swelling. They fall out of my gun the same way they go in my gun, nice and easy, nice and smooth. So no issues there. So really recommend Starline Brass. If you decide to not go with Starline Brass, say you got some old brass, Hornaday or Winchesters or something that you wanted to reload yourself, you could do that. But one thing that you have to take into consideration when doing so is the primer port on these, if you can see that, is nowhere near. Let me put them both up here side by side. If you look at the primer cup on these, pretty big difference. Hopefully you can see daylight through there. The Starline Brass round right here, you can see is about 1/8 of an inch hole versus this 1/16 of an inch hole. And when we first started shooting, I was shooting reloads. I was shooting Winchesters. I think this is a Hornady. Yeah, this one's a Hornady. But I was shooting those, and I thought there was something wrong with my gun. I thought there was something wrong with the primers I was using, because what was happening is the primers were backing out. You'd fire this using a regular reload case with black powder. I don't know if it's because the powder burns slower or how the pressure builds or whatever the case is. What I can tell you is in a revolver, these little primers, if you don't drill that out bigger, they'll back out on you, and then you'll go to cock for your next round if you're using a single action gun, or if you're shooting a double action pistol, cowboy mounted shooting, you're shooting single actions all the time. So when I go to shoot that single action and I cock it back again, about the fourth round, that first kind of deformed primer would work its way back around, and it would hit case. So it would hit the case, and there'd be significant resistance. Yeah, it took me forever to figure out what it was, and actually I went and talked to my gunsmith first, and he was like, oh, you've got he thought it was issues with my revolver. After a little bit of homework, I figured out that was the difference in the cases, is that goofy little hole compared to this big hole on the Starline. So anyway, long story short, go with Starline or drill yours out, and you won't have any issues in doing that. So that's what you need. You need brass, you need powder. I use reenactor powder right now. It's easier to come by than black powder. If you do use black powder, like an FFG or triple FG, both work great. But again, I use this reenactor powder. It's a bit more coarse, but it does put off more smoke, and it's a whole lot of fun to shoot. Then you need primers, right? These are like little bits of gold right now, but you'll need primers. And then these little cardboard wads right here, 60 thousandths of an inch. They sell them in 30 thousandths as well. I buy mine from Buffalo Arms Co. I buy them by the 1,000, and they're about 1 or 2 cents a piece in doing so. So cases, which you can reuse, powder, which you'll burn through, primers, which you throw away, and cardboard wads that magically disappear when you fire them. And you'll need a little dowel to punch them down in. So walk through making one real quick. I use this Hornady hand primer. Squeeze and set. We are now primed. I use the Lee precision powder measure. I have this set to load it at 30 grains. Tip it down, give it a tap, tip it back up, give it another tap, so you're ready for your next one. Pretty well full of powder at this point. Press that in like so, and got a little bit of junk in my way here. Then you take the wooden dowel and just press it down in. You feel it crunch, you'll feel it flatten out, and you are ready to shoot. So for the demonstration, again, we'll talk about why you can't use these anymore. That little piece of fiber wad that goes in there, that it looks harmless enough, but it does do a fair amount of damage. And there's plenty of instances, if you Google it up, look around on the internet, you'll see where people have been hurt by these. And which is why now when you shoot in any competition with single action shooting, you should be shooting these, because there's nothing at all that flies out the end other than burning powder, which has got an effective range to pop a balloon at least right around 20 feet. If you're popping balloons from further than that, you're doing something wrong, or you're using the wrong kind of powder. You shouldn't produce a blank that would do damage beyond 20 feet, right? That's the goal. Okay, so that's about it. So it really comes down to two big differences. One, these things are getting scarce. I can make these all day. These are getting very expensive, also expensive, but at least I can get my hands on them. And in a normal situation without a pandemic, these are about a quarter of the cost, so about 25% of the cost of what these were. So I can keep this stuff in bulk. I've got it all over in the garage here, and I can always make more, right? So that's a great thing. I don't have to wait for shipping if I run myself out of casings. You know, as it goes, every time I clean brass, I do a quick inventory and make sure I'm situated to make the next 1,000 or 2 blanks for my home practice. And then again, when I do go to competitions, I am on the hook to either bring my own or buy them from the range master or the event coordinator. Okay, so let's take these two guys. We're gonna stick them in the Rugers, go outside, and I'm gonna shoot 2 seltzer cans. If they're empty, well, that'll be obvious when I shoot them, right? But to give you an idea of the danger that does come with shooting a wad, and still nonetheless the danger that does exist by shooting a factory crimp. All right, so thanks, let's head outside. Okay, so here we are outside, and I've got an empty seltzer can that I'm going to shoot with the blank that I made out of this Ruger Nuvacero 45 long Colt. Again, first I'm going to shoot the blank I made, and we'll follow that up with the factory crimp shot. All right, let's get her done. Okay, so this was the one that I'd made, and I talked a little bit about that, right? How they're not as safe as, say, the factory crimp. And we take a look at this. Let me stretch it back open just so you can kind of get a better idea. But I mean, it shot right through it, and even continued out the backside. And what you couldn't see on camera, because I'm here filming this myself, is I had to walk about 15 feet. 15 feet to go get it. So so quite a bit, and I'm guessing that's the cardboard wad doing most of that, right? The fiber wad. Okay, so I got another empty can, a seltzer can here, and we're gonna shoot it this time with the factory blank. So factory crimped end, no cardboard wad, you get the deal. Again, this would be the competition round blank. The can is still gonna go flying, but I'll give you a close up of the damage to the can after the fact. You can judge yourself, is it more damaged than the other one? All right, so here we go. 45 long Colt black powder blank. Okay, so still significant denting and charring like you would expect from black powder going off. Not nearly as much, double penetration as we did with the cardboard blank. And on the front side of this, the damage here, again, tiny peppering, little bitty holes, but not a big ripped gash like we did from that where we saw that cardboard go in on the last one. So good call on getting rid of the cardboard wad blanks for competition shooting. But again, for at-home practice, working with my guns, working with my horses, desensitization, all the rest, and the difficulty it is to get these and have them readily available all the time, and the little bit of investment that I have in the equipment to make the blanks at home, I think I'm going to stick with it. So hey, thanks a lot for watching. I hope if you got anything at all out of this, I think it was time well spent on my part. But do me a favor, go ahead and like and subscribe. It gives YouTube an indication that somebody found the video interesting and lets other people be that much more likely to stumble across it in the future. Hey, thanks again. From me to you, from my ranch to yours, take care, God bless, and we'll see you again soon.